Welcome, everyone, to the March 22nd, 2023 Zoning Board of Appeals meeting. I'm Candace Breyer, Chairperson of the Zoning Board of Appeals. The Zoning Board of Appeals is a 9-person volunteer board nominated by the mayor and approved by City Council. First, we will hear from Planning Services, represented tonight by John Barrett. Then the applicant or their representative will make their presentation. Applicants will have 5 minutes in which to make their presentation. Staff will keep time and announce when 30 seconds are remaining. Public comment is available in person or remotely. We will first call on individuals present to address the board, then remote participants. To speak during a public hearing or during public comment remotely, press *9 if listening by phone, or use the raise hand feature if viewing through the web link. For phone access, please call 877-853-5247 and enter meeting ID 938-1648-1007. City staff will select callers that have raised their hand using the last 3 digits of their phone number, or by name if available for those accessing through the web link. You will hear an automated announcement that the host is allowing you to speak. When speaking, please move to a quiet area and mute any television or background sounds. We may ask questions of either the city or the applicant. We will acknowledge any written comments received by the board. We will allow an appearing party to express their support or objections. The board will then discuss the appeal and formulate a motion to approve that appeal. 5 affirmative votes of the board will be required for an appeal to be granted. Finally, any qualified party who is aggrieved by a decision of the board can appeal that decision to the Washtenaw County Circuit Court on a timely basis. Roll call. Candace Breyer, I am here. Todd Grant.
Here.
Dave DeVarty.
DeVarty here.
Chris Madigan.
Here.
Julia Good. Grace Whitney. Mike Daniel. Dharma Ackman.
Here.
Christina Glusak.
Here.
We have a quorum. Moving on to approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda? Motion from Dharma, thank you. Second?
Support.
Second from Dave, thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Moving on to approval of minutes. We have minutes from the December 7th, 2022 ZBA meeting. Were there any questions, comments, corrections on those minutes? If not, do I have a motion to approve the December minutes?
So moved.
Thank you, Todd. Support?
Support.
Support from Chris. Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Moving on to public hearings. Our first up is petition ZBA 22-2028, 1710 Duvarin Road. John?
This is 1710 Duvarin, and Senior Planner Jeff Kahn will be presenting this petition this evening. Jeff?
Thanks, John. I'd like to start off with a little bit of background. Are you able to bring up any of the images? That's a good image to start with. The petitioner of this project is Robertson Brothers Homes, and they had proposed a 484-unit development project with a R4A zoning district. During the course of the site plan review, it was determined that they did not have an adequate amount of open space. The city requires 65% of the site be in the form of open space. So at that point, they decided to remove units along the northern panhandle of the site, and which John is indicating with his cursor, and add 11 acres of land along Pontiac Trail to connect to the site, and John is circling that area now. That additional 11 acres that they have acquired and they have annexed will be added to an upcoming site plan petition. The petitioner went to City Council for final approval of the Phase 1 petition about 2 weeks ago, and received approval of the zoning and the site plan. But the site plan was conditioned on obtaining a variance from the Zoning Board of Appeals. As I think you all know, we have both a minimum front setback requirement in the R4A as well as a maximum. The intent of that is to ensure that future development projects are more pedestrian-friendly, are located closer to a sidewalk to provide non-motorized users an easier time accessing the site. And so after the petitioner removed those units along the northern panhandle, they were no longer consistent with our maximum front setback requirement, thereby requiring a variance. John, do you want to see if there are any other slides here? This is the aerial photograph. The highlighted area is 1710 Duvaron Road. It does currently have a 1,500 square foot ranch home on the site. This property has been acquired by Robertson Brothers Homes. This is the survey, the boundary topo survey. We're going to see if we can pull up the site plan. Why don't you hold this one? This image gives sort of the best view of what's being proposed. On the site, in a green area in the upper right corner, is an existing landfill. A little further south, John, where that big open space area is, just to the right of the cursor. There it is. That's an existing landfill that used to be owned by the city of Ann Arbor. So they're not proposing any dwelling units there. You can see that they're showing access to the site from both Pontiac Trail to the west, as well as to Duvaron on the north. And so so this is an image of the site plan that was recently approved by City Council, subject to obtaining a variance for the maximum front setback. Or what the petitioner is planning on doing is adding the additional property on the west side of the site. John, it'll be down in that corner. Exactly. Those three parcels are in the process of being added to the site plan, which would provide enough open space for the petitioner to reinstall the dwelling units up along the northern panhandle and meet the maximum front setback requirement. That's my main summary of the background, John. I'm hopeful that the petitioner is able to join us and might be able to add anything to that description.
Thanks, Jeff. Any questions for Jeff or John? Todd?
Yes, Mr. Khan, I have two questions. The impression I have is this is just a temporary situation during the build, and then that the homes would be restored at the end of the project or sometimes during the project, right?
Yes, you are correct. The petitioner is in the process of submitting a Phase 2, which would include the 11 acres in the southwest corner that will allow them to reinstall those units up along the northern panhandle and meet the city's requirement. The variance would allow them to have a site plan that is actually approved with which to begin pulling grading permits and that sort of thing. So I think you're right. It is a temporary step that will be remedied once the developer submits the Phase 2 site plan.
And this leads into my second question. So once the project is done, it'll be compliant. But, you know, the housing market has softened a little bit recently. This is a large project. What if it gets near the project, the developer is going to be upside down financially? Is there some way for the city to hold the developer's feet to the fire, so to speak, to make sure they become compliant?
That's an interesting hypothetical question.
Well, it's a possibility. It's,
Yeah.
You know, it's not a zero possibility.
Yeah. Well, one thing we do know is that land in Ann Arbor has a lot of value. If this particular developer were to not be able to pull this off, because of financial constraints, my guess is that there would be other developers who would be able to step in. This kind of project takes years and years to construct and complete. In addition to the 484 dwelling units that were part of the Phase 1 site plan, an additional 120 or so are proposed to come in with this Phase 2. It'll take a long time to construct those units and have them be absorbed into the market.
Thank you, sir.
Any other questions for staff? Dave?
I have a couple questions about the former landfill. When did the city retire that?
I'm afraid I don't have an exact date. It was used in the 1930s through 1947, I believe.
Are there any toxic waste issues with the site?
The contaminant that is currently affecting the site is methane. Methane is a reflection of the fact that organics were dumped at this site. In other words, this is not just construction debris.
Right.
So organics were constructed. The petitioner is proposing a vertical wall along the western side, along the southern side of that landfill to attempt to keep those gases from migrating into other parts of the site. And the developer will provide unique mitigation systems for all those units on the north side of the site that could potentially be impacted.
And that former landfill is owned now by the developer? It's not no longer a city parcel?
That is my understanding.
Are there potential uses for that site? Former landfill site?
None that would be recommended. The developer originally offered it to the city as parkland, and we said, no, thank you very much.
Okay.
And so the developer is proposing a series of trails that might be available for residents to walk through, but there's no current plan to remove the landfill or to develop on it.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for staff? All right, if the petitioner is here, you may come forward if you are accessing remotely, I guess.
Yes, I'm here. Thank
All right.
you.
You'll have 5 minutes to make a presentation if you'd like.
Sure, of course. Tim Lochran, I'm the Land Acquisition Director for Robertson Brothers Homes, 6905 Telegraph Road. Thank you for your time tonight. I have a presentation if you'd like me to run through some of the slides. I think Jeff did a very good job explaining the situation or the need for the variance. It is a temporary necessity in that, to his point, that area, we did not have enough land to meet the 65% open space requirement until later in the process. So recently we did get the approvals from the City Council for the first phase. The second phase, which will be submitted in about 2 to 3 weeks, will show buildings that will meet this setback requirement. We actually have a neighborhood meeting this coming Monday for all of our neighbors who we've been engaged with. I mean, this has been a 3 or 4 year process altogether. So I'm happy to run through the slides if you want, or I can answer any of the questions. I can answer some of the questions that were asked previously as well. So I'll leave that up to you.
Do you guys want to see the slides, or you just want to jump into?
If he thinks the slides will be informative, I'd like to see them.
Sure.
Okay, yeah, go ahead and share your slides.
Okay. Please tell me you're seeing the Village of Ann Arbor slide.
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. So it's 58 acres net. There's 67 gross acres. And part of that is obviously the right-of-way and then the landfill portion itself. We are not proposing to build on the landfill. We have been working with Eagle on being able to put a walking trail system through that. So that'll be shown on the phase 2. It won't be shown on what I'm showing you here, which was part of the phase 1 approvals. Master plan does call 7 to 10 units per acre, and we're just in that band. 484 total, which is 164 for sale, 324 lease. So it's really we call it a village because there's a lot of different options, from 684 square feet up to 1,850 kind of your entry level, and then to family sized, and both for rent and for sale. I'm not going to go through all these project highlights, but it is a very walkable site. We are connecting two parks. By the development of this, there's actually no access right now to Leslie Park except for an existing neighborhood through kind of a circuitous route. So we are adding a new collector street system to get to that park, which I think is a great connection. And we're having an all-electric component of the site as well. Just quickly from a context plan, again, we're Duvarn and Pontiac Trail. Essentially, that's that large area. If you've ever driven by and wonder what it is, it's it's been sitting there because it's got a lot of issues that we're dealing with from an environmental standpoint. This area, if you can see my cursor, is the landfill area. I can show you a little bit more on the site plan. We're not touching this area at all. Again, the next site plan amendment that comes in a couple of weeks will show walking trails through this. But overall, we're adding in this collector street system to Leslie Park, this new street, which will get you up to Olson Park, and quite a bit of off-site improvements as well as part of the plan. Most of the rentals are on the south side, along with this clubhouse, which is open also to the for sale townhomes, which are up here. This is the area that we're talking about today. This is the area that will be phase 2. Once we are able to acquire, and we do have these acquired now, and annexed in, we're able to have enough open space because of purchasing these parcels to build on here, and we'll meet your setback requirement. Listen, we have a lot of things going on in this site, a lot of open space, 65% open space, EV connections, multiple entry price points. So we had showed this slide to City Council, might be more than what I need to show tonight, but there's a lot of things that we're adding to this project. Since it is such a large project, we felt it was necessary to really kind of up our game and create a really first-class community.
1 minute remaining.
Thank you. 820 ready, meeting a lot of the, most of the components of your 820 plan. We've put a lot of thought and effort into this. We've met with the neighbors, met with staff. We've done a lot of research. We take it seriously. So that's certainly a component. And then a lot of site constraints. So the discussion about the landfill, there is methane. We are going to be putting in a methane trench that will essentially make the remainder of the site buildable, but we will need passive systems and things like that, additional foundation systems to work with part of the areas that were filled in with construction debris. So it's it's a big project. It's hard to do it in 5 minutes, but that is what we're trying to accomplish. And these are the products. I'll just run through these. Two-story attached for sale, 3-story attached for sale, and then the apartments as well. So I know I blew through that, but I can answer any questions you have specific to the variance for the project. So thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Any questions for the petitioner? All right, thank you. If there is anyone from the public who wishes to speak on this petition, if there's anyone here in person, please come forward now.
Thank you, Chair Breyer. My name is Ken Arbor. I live at 28 Havermill Court. I refer you to my letter that's in your packet. A few things about this very large project. In general, I support it. Ann Arbor needs the housing, and the density is appropriate. And as you just heard, this is a difficult site to build on. The specific problem tonight is technical. The plan doesn't meet the 40-foot maximum front setback requirement under R4A. That's because it needed the land to meet the 65% open space requirement. This is not a big deal. And if the setback issue were blocking this project, I would say grant the variance, open and shut. But this project is going forward anyway. The petitioner, as you heard from Mr. Khan, recently annexed some other parcels, I guess 11 acres. So it now can restore the buildings to the panhandle, shorten the front setback, and bring the entire project into conformity with R4A. I guess we heard from Mr. Lawford, that plan will be submitted in a few weeks. It even was publicized on MLive. Phase 2 plan unveiled for $214 million development on Ann Arbor's north side. This appeared Monday. The petitioner absolutely does not need this variance. The only reason they're here is to get a head start on construction, so they can start earning a quicker return on their investment. As you know, under UDC Section 529.12c, the petitioner must meet all four of the listed criteria to qualify for a variance. This includes B, quote, that the alleged practical difficulties that will result from a failure to grant the variance include substantially more than mere inconvenience, inability to obtain a higher financial return, or both, end quote. The plan fails this standard. This is all about getting a head start, not a very big one actually, and thus a greater financial return on a project that will be going before Planning Commission as a by right project, probably within a few months. Now, why do I care? I don't live close to this site. But because the 320 apartments here will have gas furnaces, the village is in direct contradiction to our A20 Climate Action Plan, Strategy 2, Action 1, which includes this assumption, quote, all new residential and commercial buildings are designed and built to operate without the use of natural gas, end quote. And Strategy 3, Action 2, quote, all new construction from 2022 to 2030 and beyond is built to net zero energy standards, which includes no natural gas consumption, end quote. Mr. Loughran calls this project A20 ready. That's a stretch by any measure. I won't go into it, but I would just say that the city's Office of Sustainability Innovations reviewed this project in July. You can look at the document. They wrote, quote, the use of fossil fuels in any capacity goes against the goals of A20, end quote. Yes, there'll be 164 for-sale homes that will have heat pumps, will be electric, and there's going to be some street lights powered with solar panels, and the clubhouse will have solar panels. But that's it. This is not environmentally aligned with Ann Arbor's current goals. So while this project will soon go forward with a fully conforming plan, I don't think we should accelerate it. You have every statutory right to deny this variance, and I believe the public responsibility to do so. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have a question? Yeah.
Mr. Garber, I have a question. So you lost me a little bit, but I think the point is that you're not really against the project. You're against an accelerated construction schedule. Is that correct?
I guess you could put it that way.
Well, I just did.
Yeah. I guess I'm against granting a variance that would allow an accelerated construction schedule, because I don't believe this project on balance has met the standard for, sorry, I'm new to this stuff, public benefit for a variance. Now, that's a judgment call, but I believe in any case it does not meet 529.12C3, which is that they need this thing, which they don't. It's absolutely, they're only asking for it because they want a quicker financial return. They're going to build the project anyway. It's been approved by City Council, conditional on this variance. But the full plan with the 600 plus units is probably going to be approved as a by right project by Planning Commission within a couple of months. So I say let's wait. Let's see the whole plan. And this project has a lot of problems. Wow, I've never had to answer a question from a commission before. Thank you.
Sorry, I didn't mean to put you on, well, I did put you on the spot, but
Oh, no, I love to talk, but usually I'm the one asking, so thank you.
thank you, sir.
Is there anyone else here who wishes to speak on this petition? If there is anyone accessing remotely, you may call in. 877-853-5247 is the phone number. And then press *9 to raise your hand, or use the raise hand function if you're accessing through the web link.
Caller ending in 534, you will now be allowed to talk in the meeting.
Good evening. My name is Tom Stolberg, and I'm calling from Lower Town in Ann Arbor. And I'd like to echo some of what the last caller said. Rather than saying whether I think you should approve this or don't approve this, I really trust the judgment of this particular board in evaluating its applications per the criteria. You and the HDC both do, I think, a super job of actually following the criteria. I do not think City Council nor Planning Commission do a very good job at that. And I've got my 3 minutes, so I'm throwing my opinion out there. The reason I am calling is to support the concept that the previous caller said in terms of our 820 goals. Every application that comes before any body at this point in time should have along with it a measure of what it will cost in terms of carbon so that we know what the rest of us in the city will have to overcome in order to get out of the deficit that new buildings that are not electrified, that are not ready for 820, that are not going to meet our 2030 goal, the rest of us are going to have to make up for that. That is a number that should be calculated and put on every single project. I guess that's going to have to be put in our code somewhere as a requirement. And I know you're not going to do that right now, and I'm not really asking you to do anything in response to my call right now, except that I want to raise awareness that if we really are serious as a city, meet our 820 goals, 2030, then we need to know the math, that what we're going to have to buck up. The rest of us are somehow going to have to make up for the deficit created by projects that aren't 820 compliant. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you. Any other callers that wish to speak on this, please press star 9 now.
There don't appear to be any callers at this time.
Thank you, Courtney. With that, the public hearing is closed and we are in discussion. Todd?
Yes, I'm going to be voting in favor of this. It is, perhaps this term doesn't quite fit, but it's somewhat of a catch-22. There's a problem that was self-created, but it's going to be self-cured. So I think it's a temporary thing, and this is an easy one in that sense. Second, the concerns about the 820 program is not part of the purview of this group. I think it drops out, it is irrelevant for us to consider. So this is a pretty easy one for me. People may have other big concerns with the project, they should take them up with the city planning folks or city council, but this is not the appropriate body for that stuff. Very simple. That's it.
Any other discussion? Thoughts, comments? Dave?
I'm kind of torn by this. If we do grant the variance and this phase 2 never happens, then we're granting a variance to not comply with the open space requirement. So that weighs with me to vote against this, because sure it does, because they don't have to ever do phase 2 or come back with phase 2. Isn't that right, John?
Just wanted to clarify that the variance is being requested for a front setback maximum, not an open space requirement.
So the
The
front
developer is currently meeting the 65% open space requirement.
Okay. And the front setback, where is the front setback?
It's along Duvarin on the northern edge of this image, along that panhandle.
Yeah.
Where John's cursor is, that's where the petitioner would need to locate units in order to.
Oh, so even though this is a huge development with a lot of stuff going on, because there's no units right up there on Duvarin Road, it doesn't comply with the front setback? Even though
that's correct.
all these roads in here, it's the front setbacks from those, are those all private roads, by the way?
Yes, those are all private drives.
So that they have the responsibility to clean those
Yep.
and snowplow them and
Yep.
everything?
Yes, yes, they do.
And they also get the capability to put narrower roads in that don't have to comply with our.
Generally speaking,
Transportation.
our standards for access drives allow for narrower roads than if they were public streets or on public right-of-way.
And this, I guess it's raising whole new, another questions for me about the development, and I know this is site plan stuff, Are there sidewalks in here?
Yes, the petitioner is proposing sidewalks throughout the site. Most significantly, the petitioner is proposing a 10-foot wide shared use path that goes all the way from Pontiac Trail to Leslie Park on the eastern side of the site, as well as the north-south corridor that takes you from DeVaron into the site. So the answer to that is yes, the petitioner is proposing sidewalks and shared use paths throughout the site.
So on this picture that's on the screen right now, Leslie Park is in the lower right?
Correct. John's
Right
got
there.
his cursor
Yep,
on it.
I see that, okay. Thank you.
Is there any other discussion? I will say briefly, I am struggling with this a little bit for a similar reason as Dave just mentioned, that, I mean, it's unique for sure. In all the years I've been doing this, I don't think I've ever seen anything that was kind of a temporary variance before. But I am a little bit hung up on the standards and how this meets the standards, knowing that they're coming in with another phase that, as Todd said, self-corrects. So, I mean, that to me kind of says there isn't really a hardship because they've already resolved the hardship. So do they really need a variance? I'm not sure. Yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at. Todd?
I'm turning on my microphone. I apologize for that. So if not granting the variance would slow the project down, that's always a concern to a developer because you borrow money ahead of time.
Sure.
And interest rates are going up, so it's not a free, no problem thing to say you just have to stretch the project out. So there's a cost to that. We don't know what it is. But I would just go back to repeating that the concerns about the gas furnaces, for example, are simply not something that I think is part of the purview of this committee, and they should drop out and should not be considered by us.
Dave?
I'm still grappling with this, and I'm, again, still torn. If they can meet this, and Mr. Garber raises the question, if it does not comply with standard number 2, the practical difficulty will result from a failure to, which will result from the failure to grant the variance, includes substantially more than mere inconvenience or inability to attain a higher financial return. If they have a path to complying with current zoning codes that's on the that's on their timeline, I don't see how we can accept the grant this variance. I think it sets us up to set, okay, we'll grant variances and you cure the problem later. You know, it's setting a bad precedent, in my opinion. As I'm thinking about it and talking about it, my talking is helping me think about it, I think I have to vote for it because they're going to comply. If they proceed with the plans that they articulate, they can comply with the current zoning, and they don't even need to come to the ZBA. So I'll be voting against this.
Am I able to?
Nope,
To
sorry,
speak.
we're in discussion at this point, unless someone has a specific question for the applicant. Yeah, go ahead.
Question for
Darm.
staff,
Sure.
sorry.
Yeah.
Can you just help me understand, from a practical standpoint, what happens if we don't grant this variance?
I can do my best. It might also be good to ask that question of the petitioner. The petitioner, as far as I know, is planning to submit the Phase 2 site plan fairly soon. That may be over the course of the next couple of months. Site plan review takes quite a number of months, particularly for sites that have complexities and are fairly sizable sites. And in this case, The site plan would also include the rezoning of the 11 acres along Pontiac Trail. So that adds 2 readings at City Council. So that means we're likely looking at, at least 6 months from now until the petitioner would be able to get site plan approval for that second phase, which means the petitioner would not be able to begin moving dirt, grading the site, bringing utilities in, constructing all the mitigation devices for the landfill. So the developer would be on hold because the site plan would technically not have been approved because the approval of the site plan was subject to obtaining a variance. So it would likely delay the petitioner throughout this next construction season.
Chris?
So 6 months was a rough estimate. Is that?
That's not outside the realm of possibility, recognizing that they may come in within the next couple months. The site plan review might take a couple months, and then it needs to go to a public hearing at Planning Commission, and then it needs to go to 2 readings at City Council. I think 6 months, at a minimum.
So I think we've kind of fallen into a little bit of a trap here. So 6 months if you're lucky, but probably more. Development in Arbor takes a long time, and rezonings are not easy. And so really what he's up against if we say no is a rush, though it doesn't seem like it, to get approval so that he can go do his groundwork before the ground refreezes next fall. This is not some small delay. It's not some 2-month delay until houses can go up. And this is the stuff that kills projects. And I think that oftentimes zoning boards of appeals and planning commissions and city councils, they feel backed in because residents or whoever come with what seem like very reasonable requests, right? They say, oh, we need a parking study, or we need this, we need that. They're very small things. Perhaps they don't even cost that much in the relative scheme of things for development. But what they do is delay it and delay it. And that's really ultimately a goal of people who oppose things like this. And I'm not saying that the people who spoke out against it today, that's their goal. But I think that a lot of times, that is what ends up happening is these small things, these things that seem very reasonable, right? Oh, he can come before a planning commission after his months-long rezoning to get by right approval, and I think that's great. And I'm sure that he will do that. I just, I think a lot about the people who will benefit from the project, right? Who aren't here, and there are many of them. There are hundreds, if not thousands of them who will initially call it home, and there are thousands more over the life of whatever buildings are there. And I don't think that they particularly hootenanny about some technical thing that allows a project to proceed. So I'm going to vote in favor of it. I think that it is simply the right decision to do. I don't think it is a reasonable request to delay a project potentially through next winter to get started because they don't meet a small setback that will eventually be met.
Thanks, Chris. Any other discussion? Are we ready for a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Dave.
ZBA 22-2028, 1710 Duvarin Road, based on the following findings in accordance with the established standard, I'll cross out the findings. In accordance with the established standards for approval, the Zoning Board of Appeals hereby grants a variance from the 40-foot maximum setback requirement established in Table 5.17-3, multiple family dwelling district dimensions. The variance allows the project to move forward for site plan approval from City Council. This variance.
Second.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Todd. Dharma.
Yes.
Dave.
DeVarty votes no.
Christina?
Yes.
Todd?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
I also vote yes. Request is granted.
Thank you very much.
Moving on to petition ZBA 23-0001, 518 Miller Avenue. John?
I'm John Barrett, zoning coordinator for the city of Ann Arbor. Melrose LLC is seeking a 5-foot lot width variance from table 5.5-17.2, two-family residential zoning district dimensions to begin construction on a 720 square foot, two-story addition to the rear of an existing duplex. The first floor addition will contain a primary bedroom, an accessible bathroom, and a mudroom. The second floor addition will contain 2 bedrooms, a bathroom, and a large dining area. The new addition will meet the required side and rear setbacks. The subject property is zoned R2A, two-family dwelling. The existing lot is 35 feet in width, and the R2A district requires a minimum 40-foot lot width. The subject property is located on the north side of Miller Avenue near the intersecting thoroughfare of Chapin Street. The City of Ann Arbor owned West Park is in the vicinity to the south. The home was built in 1901 and is approximately 1,290 square feet in size. The existing parcel is 4,356 square feet in area. The minimum lot size for the R2A district is 5,000 square feet. The property owners will obtain the required 644 square feet in area from the abutting property 528 Miller through the administrative land transfer process. One of the owners is planning to live in the downstairs unit. Granting the variance will permit construction of a unit with many handicapped accessible features. The first floor addition will allow for aging in place for the resident, including a bathroom that accommodates wheelchair maneuverability, a handicap accessible bathroom, floor space in all areas to permit wheelchair clearance, main floor laundry facilities, and a 2-stair rear entrance with space for a ramp. The new addition will create a less hazardous entrance for the first floor tenant that is existing. If you'll turn your attention to the monitors, you'll see the first map is the zoning map with the subject parcel highlighted in yellow in the center. The next map is the aerial map showing surrounding properties and existing conditions. The next slide is showing the existing conditions of the existing property. And the next slide shows the survey that was submitted with the application. And the next slide shows how the owners are going to obtain the additional 644 square feet to the north to make the subject property comply with the 5,000 square foot lot area requirement. And then, as you see down here on the plan, it's 35 feet in width. That's why they need the 5-foot variance requirement for tonight to meet the 40-foot lot width so they can expand the existing duplex. The next slide shows the proposed 720 square foot addition in the hatched area. It's approximately 20 feet 6 inches by 19 feet 2 1/4 inches. The next slide shows the basement floor plan. And the next slide shows the new bedroom, the accessible bathroom, an adjacent bath, the mudroom, and a washer and dryer area on this first floor. The next slide shows the 2 bedrooms and the 1 bath in the dining room area on the second floor. And the next slide shows the elevations. You see the elevation on the north looking directly at the addition, and the other 2 showed the side elevations of the proposed 2-story addition. These are photos that were submitted by the applicant. I will let them comment on them. And the next slide is the photos that I took on my inspection at the property. See the front of the property? And this is going down the driveway towards the rear of the property, and you see the detached garages in the rear. And this is looking directly at the detached garage and the remainder of the backyard, and the area to the, where the car is parked is where this administrative land transfer and additional square footage is going to make the property meet the requirements. This is looking at the rear of the facade of the home. And this is the survey, you see the survey stakes in this photo, and this is the area where the 644 square feet are going to be added to the subject property. Just another shot of where that property is in relationship to the subject property. And the adjacent property to the south and the property to the north. That concludes my presentation. I will take any questions that you have at this time.
Thank you, John. Chris?
Has it ever been discussed or considered to amend the ordinance to allow development of conforming structures on non-conforming lots?
So the R2A district, we just reduced the thresholds for this. The R2A, approximately 4 months ago, you had to have 8,500 square feet for an R2A lot. And we've reduced that requirement down to 5,000 square feet, and it matches the R1D single-family district. So we have reduced the thresholds, and this one just falls short of the lot width of the 5 feet, and then they're actually going to add the additional square footage in the back. So we have made it more reasonable for people with R2A lots to do additions, or who have a single family R2A lot to create a duplex.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for John? All right, if the petitioner is here, and you could please come forward, state your name for the record. You'll have 5 minutes.
I want to say good evening and thanks for finally meeting. Okay. Okay. I'm Rosalind Barclay, and I'm the majority owner of Melrosa LLC. The co-owners are my children and their spouses. I'm 80 years old. In fact, today is my birthday. So, I've lived in Ann Arbor in the same 2-story house for 50 years. And for the past 10 years, it's really become increasingly clear to me that I needed to do something about living in a 2-story home, and I need to live in a 1-story home unit with laundry facilities and sleeping arrangements on the same floor to allow me to age in place. Currently, like many homes in Ann Arbor, the basement has the laundry, upstairs are the bedrooms. In the fall of 2021, my family and I bought a 518 Miller duplex, which could provide this opportunity, we thought. The building was exactly next door to my daughter and offered me the advantages of living close to my daughter and to some of the volunteer activities that I do. It's also a few steps to the Ann Arbor bus system, which might become increasingly necessary for me as I age. As you heard, as it currently exists, the first-floor apartment of 518 Miller is around 500 square feet and really doesn't offer what I would need for living comfortably as I age and become increasingly disabled. I'm hoping to enlarge that structure to include a bathroom with a zero-clearance shower that could accommodate a wheelchair entry if I need, have laundry facilities on the first floor, build a 2-step rear entrance that could be easily ramped, modified, rather than the long, as you saw, 10-stair front walk with irregular stairs at the side door that currently exist. The property has not been significantly improved since the 1960s. If I can make it my home to age in place, I plan to improve the street side visual look, such as replacing that crumbling stucco with siding. We also have a plan to add thermal insulation, high-efficiency electrical appliances, energy-efficient windows, a heat pump which is consistent with the city's 820 program goals. We have no objection from the neighbors. My daughter lives on the west side of the property, and on the east side, the neighbor who shares the driveway easement has no issue with the property, and I think there's a letter or an email from her in the packet. In conclusion, allowing a variance of 5 feet on the width of the property of 518 Miller will provide housing for me or another older person to age in place, and/or a disabled person to live comfortably. It will improve the appearance and structural integrity of the property, and I think contribute to Ann Arbor's clean energy goals.
Thank you. Any questions for the applicant? Yes, Chris.
And I'm sorry if you said this and I missed it,
Sure.
but I heard you say that it hasn't been improved since the 60s.
It has, I believe it has not been significantly improved since the 60s.
Do you have, do you know what year it was built originally?
The property indicates it was built 1901, but we suspect maybe 1918.
Thank you.
And that's when the lot sizes,
Sure.
several lot sizes were 35 feet.
Absolutely. Thank you.
So I'll say, when we look at our records, and put in the staff report, it's built in 1901, our records only go back to 1901, so it may be even
Oh, my God.
previous to 1901.
Okay.
So
Okay.
it could have been in 1890 or 1895, but it's a minimum of 1901.
Okay.
Any other questions for the petitioner? All right, thank you very much. If there is anyone from the public who wishes to speak on this petition, please come forward. If there's anyone accessing the meeting remotely who wishes to speak, please press *9 now to raise your hand or use the raise hand function on the web link. I will note we did receive a letter of support from Danielle Gee.
Caller ending in 534, you will now be allowed to talk in the meeting.
Hello, this is Tom Stolberg calling again. I'm calling this time as one of the owners of a neighboring house, not an immediate neighbor, but at 502 Miller, very close to there. I'd like to say happy birthday to the applicant. I'd like to say that the owners of 502 Miller have no objection to this application. As I said before in my last call, that I do respect the judgment of this board and leave those decisions to you and not for me to recommend one way or another. I do note it is interesting that the R2A zoning rules were recently changed and that brings us close to compliance, but I let you decide how to handle that. So we have no objection. Thank you.
Thank you.
There don't appear to be any other callers at this time.
Thank you, Courtney. With that, the public hearing is closed and we are in discussion.
Got a question?
Dave, yeah.
This is for staff. So even though this lot is narrower, it complies with all the setback requirements?
Correct. And so does the proposed addition.
So everything is compliant with all of our setbacks and everything. And they're adding lot area to comply with that, and it's only the fact that this goes back to 1900 as a 35-foot lot.
As a non-conforming lot.
Gotcha.
And the area was non-conforming as well, but they're going to rectify that with the addition of the administrative land transfer from
Understood.
the
Thank you.
upper parcel. But
Thank you.
that's the one criteria that they're deficient in.
Chris?
Something fun about this lot is it was created prior to the existence of zoning. And so if you're looking for whether it was self-created or not, whoever designed this lot did not create it with the idea of conforming to lot standards. So just kind of interesting. I suspect we have a lot of those lots, though.
Any further discussion? Are we ready for a motion?
I mean, just to the point of this variance, I'm going to support it. And it seems to me that it's compliant in every way with our zoning codes, except for this one aspect of the historic nature of our zoning codes coming in after lots like this were split and created. And I'm ready to read it.
Perfect. Thank you, Dave.
ZBA 23-0001, 518 Miller Avenue. In accordance with established standards for approval, the Zoning Board of Appeals hereby grants a 5-foot variance from Table 5-17.5 two-family residential district dimensions to begin construction on a 720-square-foot, two-story addition to the rear of an existing duplex. The subject property is zoned R2A, two-family dwelling district, and a minimum 40-foot lot width is required. The addition is to be built per the submitted plans.
I have a motion. Do I have support?
Support.
Thank you, Chris. Chris?
Yes.
I also vote yes. Dharma?
Yes.
Dave?
DeVarty, yes.
Christina?
Yes.
Todd?
Yes.
The request is granted. Moving on to petition ZBA 23-0002, 511 East Ann Street. John?
Rob Burrows of OX Studios, representing the property owner, are seeking variances from Section 5.32.2, subsection A2, nonconforming lot, and Table 5.17-3, multiple family residential zoning district dimensions, in order to create a second unit to an existing single-family residence. The property is zoned R4C, multiple family dwelling district, and requires a minimum lot size of 8,500 square feet and lot width of 60 feet. The existing lot is 6,473 square feet in area and 57 feet in width. A variance of 2,027 square feet in area and a 3-foot lot width is requested to allow for an additional dwelling unit on the subject nonconforming lot. The subject property is located on the north side of East Ann Street, east of North Division, and west of North State Streets. The earliest map the residence appears on is the 1866 Bird's Eye map, and its first appearance in the city directory is 1872. The house was maintained in an acceptable condition until the late 1960s, and since that time it was allowed to fall into disrepair. The home has not been consistently occupied in recent years and is now in its current dilapidated state. The current owner purchased the home in 2022. The home is currently in a single-family status. The plans to convert to a duplex will combine the first floor and the basement to one unit with 6 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms. The second unit, located on the second floor, will consist of 4 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms. The plans include a 2-story addition to the rear of the home that is 14 feet by 37 feet 10 inches for a total of 1,555 square feet. The basement conversion to habitable space is 515 square feet, and the first floor and second floors total 520 square feet. The addition will meet the required setbacks for the district. If you'll turn your attention to the monitors, you'll see the first slide is the zoning map, and you see the highlighted parcel in yellow at the center of your screen on the north side of Ann Street. The next slide is the aerial map showing surrounding properties and existing conditions. And the next slide is a zoomed-in aerial photo of the subject property. The next slide is the survey that was submitted by the applicant. And the next slide is the proposed site plan, and you see in the yellow the highlighted addition area being proposed. The next slides are the floor plans. You see the basement floor plan and the first floor level plan. The basement has 2 bedrooms and a bathroom, and level 1 has 4 bedrooms and 2 baths. The next slide shows level 2 being proposed, and that has 4 bedrooms and 2 baths. And you see the roof plan alongside of it. The next slide are photos that were submitted by the applicant with the application, showing existing conditions in the property in its current state. And these are the rear yard and rear elevation photos. And these are my photos that I took upon my inspection. See the rear facade. More of the rear facade. Side elevation. Part of the backyard adjacent to the property to the west. So you see the current state of the property and the second floor. And this is the property adjacent to the west and the property directly to the east. That is the end of my presentation, and I will take any questions that you may have at this time.
Thank you, John. Any questions? All right, if the petitioner is here, you may come forward, state your name for the record. You'll have 5 minutes.
Good evening, Rob Burrows of OX Studio representing the petitioner this evening. Excuse me, I'll start with a clear throat. Thank you, Mr. Madigan and Mr. Gilardi for identifying old properties and the challenges of working in current contemporary zoning. R4C is not at all contemporary, but we know the hazards and the challenges to working around it. You saw the pictures of this house, and we've identified the earliest date that we're aware of, 1866, when it was first evident.
Could
It's
you
a-
raise the microphone?
Oh, of course, please. Is that
Yeah,
better?
yeah.
Thank you. It's an esteemed house in terms of its date and its history. However, the house itself has fallen into disrepair, as you can obviously tell by the photographs, both taken by myself and by Mr. Barrett. It is a project that happens to also fall in the Ann Street Historic District. We have already gone through the HDC, and the drawings that you see in front of you this evening were in fact approved in full by the HDC at this time. We're coming to you tonight to hopefully be granted our opportunity for a variance in our lot width and our lot size to basically create what we deem a very subtle HDC approvable addition to the property. It's very sensitively done. It's scaled appropriately. I know none of that's appropriate to our discussion tonight, but all those are intentional, not only for HDC, but in terms of the overall intent of not maximizing the development on this property. This unit is intended to help supplement what's already there. There's already work underway to stabilize and preserve the existing building structure. It is in quite a bit of disrepair. I won't get into gory details. The addition itself is meant to supplement that. It's not meant to be sorry for the colloquial term, a land grab, an addition of maximum density. It's a duplex. We feel in our heart of hearts that it supports the current sensibilities of our community, of our planning commission, our city council, and hopefully yourselves in terms of being an additional sensibly designed and introduced additional dwelling unit into a neighborhood such as this. There's also, I believe, 10 letters in your packet this evening, all in full support of this project, which we're very grateful for receiving. So, Mr. Barrett, if I could just quickly, I'll walk you through. It's pretty evident on the site plan, if I could, which just has most bearing on our discussions. The grayed out area in front is the existing footprint. A portion of that rear area is existing as well. You can see the bounded area on the upper right. It's kind of a yellowish or orangish. You'll see the minor addition that's being proposed. It's relatively small in scale. The intention is to make anything we're doing new to this property fully compliant for all the setback conditions. It doesn't maximize the setbacks. It's directly abutting the west setback. It's far removed from the rear setback, and it's far removed from the eastern setback. So, which would be in that case in order left, upper, and right in the case of how we're viewing this. So it's a very sensitive undertaking again. We recognize that there are the 2 variance requirements, but we've done everything we can with the exception of grabbing more land, which is not feasible at all in this neighborhood to do, to attain what should be a very simple and elegant project. Again, the letters of support are a very clear indication of how the neighbors view this, how they view it as a positive and a benefit not only to the city but to their neighborhood overall. If there's any time, I don't know if we can do this at this board, Ms. Briere, but if there's any extra time, I will like to introduce the owner
Sure,
who would like
we
to
still
speak
have
as well,
2
please.
minutes.
Thank you. Oh, Ryan, please, sorry. The owner.
Hello. Thank you guys so much for the time. My name is Ryan Panaleo. I am the owner of 511 East Ann Street. I'm sure some of you are happy to hear that. Some of you may be nervous for the project that I'm about to take on. For me, Ann Street means more than just a rental property. For context, I don't have any fancy slideshow for you guys, but I'll tell you a little bit of a personal story on why I'm here today. I started in real estate in Arbor about 5 years ago. I have a full-time day job. This is my side passion. I moved here from Massachusetts. I renovated probably the second most dilapidated house on this street, 603 East Ann Street.
1 minute remaining.
It was a 1.5-year project. It was 6 units. I kept them all 1-bedrooms. This is not your typical development job. If any other developer had it, it would have been 6 bedrooms up and down. The neighbor had contacted me, saw the great work that I did. I then moved quickly to purchase this property, knowing the amount of work that it needed. I was scared, but I took it on because I know that the neighborhood needs this type of restoration work. Paul Dunlap, who lives at 602 East Ann Street, had tears in his eyes and thought about selling his property to move away from Ann Street because of the condition of 603. After I had fixed it up, he has completely changed his mind and is now a happy resident at 602 East Ann Street. So for me, 511 East Ann Street means a lot more than just creating an amazing living experience for the tenants living there. It's about creating a neighborhood that people are proud to live in, not to mention I live at 201 East Ann Street. So I'm on the street, I'm a tenant myself. This is not your typical developer pitch, but I just want to speak from the heart on why I'm here today and why I'd really appreciate your support in this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for the applicant or his architect? All right, thank you. If there's anyone here who wishes to speak on this petition, please come forward now. If you're accessing via the phone or the web link, please press *9 to raise your hand or use the raise hand function on the web link. While we wait, oh, sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
At caller ending 326, you will now be allowed to talk in the meeting.
Oh, can you all hear me?
Yep.
Oh, my name is Jeff Crockett, and actually I'm sharing time with Christine Crockett. But Chris and I have lived at 506 East Kingsley for over 40 years, and we are also officers of the Old Fourth Ward Historic District. And we are thrilled with Ryan's project because he's doing all the right things in exactly the right way. And he has contacted the board of the Historic District. We've met a couple times. But I do want to say that being a resident for over 40 years, I have walked by the property at 511 hundreds of times. And over the years, we've seen the deterioration of this property to the extent that at one point, about 3 years ago, I reported it to the Historic District Commission. And it has been under serious consideration eventually for demolition by neglect. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to my wife, Christine.
Hi, this is Chris Crockett. I'm president of the Old Fourth Ward Association. And I just want to say that this may be the oldest house in Ann Arbor. And as we approach the bicentennial, we are absolutely over the moon that someone has bought this house that cares, truly cares about this neighborhood. There is so much exploitation by absentee landlords of the properties in the Old Fourth Ward Historic District. They give minimal care to the houses of this very historic neighborhood. And we couldn't be happier that Ryan has bought this house and plans to do beautiful things with it. We fully support his plan, and we are so happy that he is one of our neighbors. We wish that we had more neighbors like Ryan, who really cared about Ann Arbor's architectural heritage. So we really encourage you to pass this zoning board appeal. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
There don't appear to be any additional callers at this time.
Thank you, Courtney. I will note that we did receive 10 letters of support for this project from Christine Crockett and Jeff Crockett, Eleanor Crown at 338 East Kingsley Street, Paul Dunlap at 602 East Ann Street, Lisa Herreri at 521 East Ann Street, Kim and Steve Hudolin, 303 North Division Street, Julie Ritter, Benson Smith, 331 East Ann Street, Eileen Tyler, Magnus Wilson, 517 East Ann Street, and Susan Weinberg and Lars Bjorn at 712 East Ann Street. And I apologize if I butchered anyone's names. With that, the public hearing is closed and we're in discussion. Todd.
You went through the letters. I'd like to note that
Thank you. This better, Courtney? I have my microphone on. Thank you.
I don't think we've ever received more letters in support on a project, at least from the time I've been here. You've been here longer, Candace. I'd like to point out that one of the people who wrote in, Susan Weinberg, when she says it is one of Ann Arbor's oldest buildings, she's the author of Historic Ann Arbor, an Architectural Guide, a book she wrote about important properties in Ann Arbor that are gone, and she has another book entitled Lost Ann Arbor. They're still available on Amazon. I read the Historic Ann Arbor book a number of years ago. In addition to everybody else jumping up down and say this is a great project, the fact that she thinks it's an important project is an additional weight for me. So I'm just calling out this one letter.
Dave?
This is such an easy thing to support. Similar to the last project, we have these zoning codes that came in long after these lots were divided and these older homes created. And this is a neighborhood with high demand for rental properties, people just renting to temporary residents. And it also has a lot of permanent residents, owner-occupied homes. And this sort of a project is just the kind of thing, and I'm sure it's why there's such an outpouring of support for it from the neighbors. It's just the kind of thing the city needs to basically to keep these neighborhoods vibrant and appealing to owner-occupied people in the student areas. And it's an easy thing to support. It will help us maintain this as a very diverse neighborhood with owner-occupants as well as renters.
Any further discussion? We ready for a motion?
I can do that again.
Thank you, Dave.
ZBA 23-002, 511 East Ann Street. In accordance with the established standards for approval, the Zoning Board of Appeals hereby grants variances from Section 5.32.2, subsection A2, non-conforming lot, and Table 5.17-3, multiple family residential zoning district dimensions, in order to create a second dwelling unit to an existing single-family residence. A variance of 2,027 square feet in area and 3 feet in lot width is granted to allow a second unit on the subject non-conforming lot. All new construction is to be built per the submitted plans.
Thank you, Dave. Do you have support?
Support.
Thank you, Chris. Christina?
Yes.
Todd?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
I also vote yes. Dharma?
Yes.
Dave?
DeVarty, yes.
The request is granted. Moving on to petition ZBA 23-0003, 1012 Hill Street. John?
Rob Burrows of OX Studios, representing the property owner, is seeking a variance from Section 5.20 Landscaping, Screening, and Buffering. A 15-foot conflicting land use buffer is required along the west side of the property where a shared driveway is located, and a variance on the south side of the lot, which is currently being used for parking. Relief from Section 5.32.2, alteration to a nonconforming structure, is being requested as the structure is being converted from 3 units to 4 units. The existing structure contains 3 units with 19 total occupants. The petitioner seeks to increase to 4 units with 23 occupants. The property is zoned R4C Multiple Family Dwelling District. The subject property is located on the south side of Hill Street, west of East University Avenue, across the street from the University of Michigan's campus. The residence is approximately 3,831 square feet in size and was built in 1910. The parcel is conforming for the lot area, width, and front and rear setbacks. The residence does not meet either of the required 12-foot side setbacks. The residence currently contains 3 dwelling units. The basement unit has 4 bedrooms with 6 occupants. The first floor unit has 2 bedrooms with 4 occupants, and the third unit occupies the second and third floors with 9 bedrooms and 9 occupants for a non-conforming group quarters unit. The proposed changes include a 6-bedroom basement unit, a 6-bedroom first floor unit, a 6-bedroom second floor unit, and the 5-bedroom third floor unit. The new construction will occur within the footprint of the home, and there are no new additions being proposed. Before I go any further, on your motion worksheets, there's generally the 5 criteria for granting a variance, and things change rapidly sometimes in planning, and I forgot all about this, but you don't have to look at the 5 requirements for a conflicting land use buffer. There are several alternative criteria for specific types of variances, and one of them is landscaping, screening, and buffering. And so it states, in the case of an application for a variance from the landscaping, screening, and buffering requirements of section 5.20, a variance may be granted from the strict application of that section when the evidence supports that the public benefit intended to be secured will exist with less than the required landscaping or screening. So that's the one criteria that this variance needs to meet, not all 5.
Could you read?
Yep.
Read that again.
Could you
Sure.
repeat that, Jim?
So a variance may be granted from the strict application of this section, 5.20, when the evidence supports that the public benefit intended to be secured will exist with less than the required landscaping or screening. So it doesn't need to meet the 5 criteria. If you'll turn your attention to the monitors, the first slide is the zoning map, and you see the highlighted subject property in the center of your screen, and it's directly across the University of Michigan to the north. And the next slide is the aerial photo showing surrounding properties and existing conditions. And the next slide shows a zoomed-in aerial photo of the subject property. And you can see, like I said, on the west side of the lot, along here where they're required to put in a conflicting land use buffer, it's a shared driveway. So that makes it difficult there. And then on the south side, there is existing parking. A conflicting land use buffer is not required along the east property line because it is adjacent to property that's zoned PL, public land, and it's owned by the University of Michigan. So there is no conflicting land use buffer required when it's adjacent to that zoning district. The next slide is the survey that was submitted by the applicant. And that was an older survey that we did find, and it's a little difficult to read, so there's the zoomed-in photo of it that the applicant supplied. And this is a little bit better description of the property. You see the proposed site plan, and the reason why the alteration is being required is because there's existing 3 units, and the petition is calling for an increase to 4, and it does not meet this side setback of 12 feet on the east side or the 12 foot on the west. Even though the footprint's not being changed or no additions, they are going up a unit, so that requires an alteration. The next slide shows the proposed basement floor plan, and that contains the 6 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms. The next slide is the first floor, and it shows the 6 bedrooms and 3 baths, and they're basically, almost all these first 3 units are mirrored images of each other. And the next slide shows the second floor, 6 bedrooms, 3 baths, and then the proposed 3rd level floor plan, which will be eliminating the group quarters situation and supplying 5 bedrooms and 1 bathroom. The next photos are the photos that were supplied by the applicant with the application, and some interior photos. I will let the applicant comment on them if they choose. And these are my photos when I made in my inspection. You see the front of the subject property, the front facade. This is looking down that west property line and the shared driveway situation, and you can see that this is where the 15-foot conflicting land use buffer would have to be located, or is required to be located. This is the south side of the property and showing where the existing parking is and where that conflicting land use buffer is being required to be installed. This is looking directly at the rear facade of the property, of the residence. And looking to the east, and you see the east side of the property and the adjacent property, the University of Michigan property to the east. This is looking directly to the east at the University of Michigan property, the public land zoned property, and directly to the west of the other side of the property, the adjacent property. That concludes my presentation, and I will take any questions that you may have at this time.
Thank you, John. Todd?
I have a somewhat off the point question. The property in the east is Michigan property. Is that large enough to build on? It looks pretty small.
It's a University of Michigan, it's an old office building.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Also, they don't have to comply with our zoning codes.
Correct, correct.
Go ahead, Dave.
What's the conflicting use to the west? Isn't that a group housing?
It's all multiple family, but our
How's that
code.
conflicting use?
It's not, we've been down this road before, and I agree 100%, it's not conflicting, but the code is the code, and it requires a buffer even against like properties.
In the zoning district?
Yes, sir. Yeah, we've hashed this out numerous times.
Okay.
Any other questions for John? All right, if the petitioner would like to come forward, you'll have 5 minutes.
Hello again, Rob Burrows, OX Studio, representing my client again. Different client, I shouldn't say, not my client again. And Mr. Dover, I 100% agree with your flummox question. I've never understood it either. If anyone here wants to support it to city council, I would be 100% behind them. So it's crazy that we have to go conflicting land use against the same zoning district, the same uses, but that's what it is. So that's one of the reasons we're here. The other is the alteration to a non-conforming structure. There's some key things to point out. I do not want to look at those photos again because they give me the heebie-jeebies. I didn't want to share others because it may force a condemnation of the house versus a restoration of the house. It is 2 units, 2 dwelling units that are distinct dwelling units, and the second and third story, the upper level, the uppermost level and the roof level are actually a group housing. So we're trying to clean up a lot of messes in this, structural messes, weird adaptation messes, and even the rear, which it's not necessarily a requirement of this approval. You saw that crazy, funky stair wrapping around, twisting like an octopus. That's getting torn down, and a new, secure, safe stair will be installed. So there's a lot of tremendous improvements, and one of the big things is just cleaning up the aspect of group housing, combined with 2 additional dwelling units. You'll see we're going from 3 dwelling units clinically and 19 beds to, which, by the way, are I don't even know if there's also additional occupants that could be in those bedrooms, to 4 dwelling units and 23, if I'm not mistaken, total bedrooms. So yes, it's a modest increase, a full increase in dwelling unit, which is compliant in not only the district, but with the lot size as well. So there's no issue with that. The conflicting land use is quirky, as we've already stated. It's almost impossible to avoid on the west side, owing to the fact that we have a shared driveway between both on this property as well as the shared aspect of the adjoining property. The rear, the biggest challenge we have is even with the current number of occupants of that property, there is quite a few cars required to park it. Anything taken away from that is going to push the cars somewhere else, the street, the neighborhoods, everything. So that's really the rear issue in terms of the conflicting land use itself. So with that, I'm here for questions or anything else. Please, Mr. Grant.
To ask the obvious question, from the picture of the shared driveway, there's not a lot to share. My sense from the photo is any barrier will render the driveway completely useless. Is that your opinion as well?
That's very accurate, yes.
Thank you, sir.
Rob, just a quick question. The property on the rear side where the parking is that would need a conflicting land use, is that also a
Parking.
similar use?
Yes.
Okay.
There's actually I should have pointed out, and I think it's identified, might even be on my plan, that there is actually a minor retaining wall there on top of it all too. So, but yes, it is actually parking and I think an 18-unit development immediately adjacent to it behind.
So not something wildly different.
No, hardly. This block, if you look at an overall aerial, it's almost all the same.
All right, thank you. Chris?
Please.
The driveway, and I apologize, I had to step out during the presentation, but is the driveway is it just a verbal agreement? Is there an actual easement in place that?
I don't have the slightest clue, to be totally honest with you. I believe it's certainly verbal, it's clearly understood.
Okay, yeah.
In fact, I haven't been there in a little while. I noticed that there's now a dumpster up front. I know there's a second dumpster that used to be in the rear of it, so my understanding is that, I can confirm that.
It's okay.
It's there is no other access to it, so
Gotcha.
by
Okay.
default, it has to be here,
Thank you.
of course.
Any other questions for the petitioner? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
If there's anyone from the public who wishes to speak on this petition, please come forward now. If you're accessing the meeting via the web link or by phone, please press *9 to raise your hand or use the raise hand feature.
There don't appear to be any callers at this time.
Thank you, Courtney. I don't believe we received any letters of support or objection regarding this project. So with that said, the public hearing is closed and we are in discussion. Dave?
So I'm going to, unless somebody else wants to, I'm going to be making two separate motions. One for the variance for the, to have a variance from the landscaping, screening, and buffering requirements, and then after that, I'll make a motion for the alteration. But I'm willing to speak to both of these right now. And to me, the requirement of the variant of the landscaping, to me, is ridiculous and to the detriment of the use of this site for the driveway, et cetera. And so I'm going to be supporting that. And the alteration, I'll support. There is absolutely no change to the footprint. And this is the kind of thing where we're increasing the density in a neighborhood that is really where the density is. I mean, it's a very walkable, it's a student neighborhood. So given that there's no additional changes to the footprint, no further incursion into any setbacks, I'll be supporting the alteration as well.
Thank you, Dave. Any other discussion? All right, I think we're ready for motion number 1.
ZBA 23-0003, 1012 Hill Street. In accordance with the established standards for approval, the Zoning Board of Appeals hereby grants a variance from Section 5.20, landscaping, screening, and buffering. A 15-foot conflicting landscape use buffer is required along the west side of the property where a shared driveway is located, and a variance on the south side of the lot, which is currently being used for parking. Variance request is to eliminate the buffer from the west and south side of the property. All new construction is to be built per the submitted plans.
Support.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Chris. Okay, just a reminder, this is the motion for the conflicting land use buffer variances. I vote yes. Dharma?
Yes.
Dave?
DeVarty votes yes.
Christina?
Yes.
Todd?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
The request is granted. So, Dave, are you also going to make the motion for the alteration?
I can unless somebody else would like to.
Anyone
Okay.
else?
ZBA 23-0003, 1012 Hill Street. Alteration to a nonconforming structure. The Zoning Board of Appeals hereby grants relief from Section 5.32.2, alteration to a nonconforming structure, to allow construction of a new 4th unit in an existing 3-unit rental property. The existing residence is being converted from 3 units with 19 bedrooms to 4 units with 23 bedrooms. No new additions or changes to the existing footprint to occur. All renovations are to take place on the interior of the building. All new construction is to be built per the submitted plans.
Thank you, Dave. Do I have support?
Support.
Thank you. Christina?
Yes.
Dave?
DeVarty, yes.
Dharma?
Yes.
I also vote yes. Todd?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
The request is granted. Moving on to petition ZBA 23-0004, 435 Barber Avenue. John?
Property owners are requesting relief from Section 5.32.2, alteration to a non-conforming structure, to construct a new bedroom and bathroom over the existing garage. The home is located on a corner lot and does not meet the required average front setback on the DuPont Circle side of the property. The bedroom and bathroom will be approximately 900 square feet of new living space above the existing garage. The property is zoned R1C Single Family Residential. The subject property is located on the south side of Dexter Road at the intersection of Barber Avenue and DuPont Circle in the Evergreen subdivision. The home is a mid-century ranch constructed sometime in the mid-1950s and is approximately 1,388 square feet in area. The owners are proposing a new bedroom and bathroom above the existing flat roof garage. The home is currently vacant and will receive a complete interior remodel. When finished, the home will contain 5 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms. The home is 7 feet 6 inches from the front lot line along DuPont Circle and does not meet the required average front setback of 15 feet. The proposed addition does not encroach further into the front setback, and new construction will be vertical. If you'll turn your attention to the monitors, you'll see the subject property. It's highlighted in yellow at the center of your screen. You can see it's at the corner of Barber and DuPont Circle. The next slide shows the aerial photo of the surrounding properties and existing conditions. Arbor Landings community is directly to the west on the left side of your screen. And the subject property is highlighted here. It's zoomed in, and you can see there's this existing flat roof garage is where the proposed addition is going to take place, and it's going to go directly straight up vertical on top of this existing garage. And it doesn't meet the average front setback along here for the properties that are being averaged back here in the circle within 100 feet. This is the survey that was submitted with the application, and you can see right here on the survey it says 7 feet 6 inches. So it's approximately half of what the required average front setback of 15 is. The next slide shows the lower level floor plan. You see the existing garage and its relationship with the rest of the house and the interior modifications and updates that are going to take place. You have 2 bedrooms and a bathroom, storage and laundry on the lower level plan. The main level plan shows the existing, a new master bedroom, bathroom, and another bedroom, a couple of bathrooms. And the next slide shows the loft and the roof plan for another master bedroom. These are elevations from the front and north side. You see the garage that's right here, that's existing, and then this is the addition that's going to go right above it. Another west elevation, a south elevation. These are the photos I took when I was at the site doing my inspection. See the front of the house. And this is looking down DuPont Circle, and you see the facade and the existing flat roof garage in relationship to the properties in the back of DuPont Circle. Here's a picture of the existing flat roof garage. And this is the side of the property that does not meet the 15-foot average. Just another perspective of the existing house and the garage where the proposed construction is going to take place. And this is the back side in the rear of the yard, and the back side of the house, and the back side of the garage. This is you can see the survey stake and looking down DuPont Circle and at the front of the house and the side of the house in relationship to the rest of the neighborhood. That concludes my presentation, and I can take any questions that you may have at this time.
Thank you, John. Any questions? Christina?
So the flat roof garage, at what point was that built? Was it at the same time as the main house?
Yes, as far as I know. I had a difficult time finding out. The architect and I discussed it. They couldn't pin down an exact time frame. And the assessor's office I contacted, they said it's sometime in the mid-1950s.
Okay,
I said it's about 1955.
okay. Just curious.
It was
Yeah, it's
very
hard to
difficult to
tell.
pin down. I contacted 3 different offices to try to find a date on this house, and I couldn't pin it down. But as the architect and I said, it's a mid-century, 1955 style.
Yeah.
Yep.
Dave?
Okay, thanks.
Along the same lines, was this area, I mean, these are dirt roads in this neighborhood, right?
That's correct. It was out in the township at one time.
And this
We
was
annexed it
township back in the
yes.
55s. When our zoning codes came into compliance, this was all township.
Yep.
Yep.
Any other questions for John?
No, I just wanted to make note that that was formerly a township parcel when it was built.
All right. If the petitioner's here, please come forward if you are accessing online. Perhaps momentarily, maybe?
I'm the
There you are.
architect, Lee Babcock, not the homeowner, but I'd be glad to give a brief explanation or answer any questions.
Certainly, yes. You'll have 5 minutes.
Okay. Yes, John Bear pointed out, pretty much, it seems like this is a project similar to what you've had already this evening, where the current zoning and the setbacks are different than how it was built originally, especially since this was in the township. But the key element is that it's on a corner in the DuPont Circle. If considered as a front yard, it really leaves no space at all for a building. And in fact, the current house is about halfway into if that's considered as a front yard. If the address is on Barber Street, and is that considered the front yard? And the corner lot, the corner side in DuPont Circle, if it's considered as side yard setbacks, then it would be conforming. So it's pretty much, building onto an existing flat roof garage, which was designed originally to have a structure over there was never built, because we looked at the roof joists were really designed to be like a floor structure. At any rate, so that's what we're proposing. It's my understanding, and also have a pitched roof, more in keeping with the rest of the house, and actually work a little easier in this climate, as I'm sure many of you know. And I believe there's quite a bit of support from the neighbors, and there's some emails that have been sent also. So the homeowner's been talking to the neighbors right in the vicinity.
All right, thank you. That was odd.
No, I'm through, unless there's questions. Yeah.
All right, yes. Does anyone have any questions? All right, thank you. If there is anyone from the public who wishes to speak on this petition, please come forward. If you're accessing via the web link or by phone, please press *9 or click the raise hand button.
There don't appear to be any callers at this time.
Thank you, Courtney. I will note we did receive letters of support from Morris Lawrence at 427 Barber Avenue, Robert Levine and Beatrice Ascani at 424 Barber Avenue, Kenworth Robin at 475 Barber, Russell Hankins and Rachel Pasilio at 430 Barber, Timothy Lurkins at 476 Barber, Anton Smith at 465 DuPont Circle, and Corinne Schott at 453 DuPont Circle. With that, the public hearing is closed and we're in discussion. Chris?
Yeah, so I'm going to support it. It seems to clearly meet the two standards for alterations. I just want to say, I've never been to DuPont Circle. I've heard a lot about it, just a little different than I pictured. No, just
Any other discussion? We ready for a motion?
Sure. But before I make the motion, I didn't even know we had a DuPont Circle in Ann Arbor. But I've been to the DuPont Circle in Washington, D.C. many times. And this is quite a bit different. The motion, ZBA 23-0004, 435 Barber Avenue, alteration to a non-conforming structure. The Zoning Board of Appeals hereby grants relief from Section 5.32.2, alteration to a non-conforming structure, to allow construction of a new bedroom and bathroom above an existing garage that does not meet the average front setback along DuPont Circle. The proposed addition will not encroach further into the existing front setback. The addition is to be built per the attached plans.
Thank you, Dave. We have a motion. Do we have support? Thank you, Christina. I vote yes. Dharma?
Yes.
Dave?
DeVarty, yes.
Christina?
Yes.
Todd?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
The request is granted. Moving on to petition ZBA 23-0005, 926 Greenwood Avenue. John?
David Lewis, representing property owner, is requesting relief from Section 5.32.2, subsection C, alteration to a nonconforming structure to convert the existing attached garage to new habitable space. The new space will accommodate an approximate 157 square foot bedroom. The parcel is nonconforming for lot area, width, and the residence does not meet the required setbacks for the district. The property is zoned R4C, multiple family dwelling district. The subject property is on the south side of Greenwood Avenue between Packard Street and Tappan Street. The residence was constructed in 1915 and is approximately 1,186 square feet in size. The property is a certified rental home that recently received a building permit for interior alterations to expand from a 3-bedroom to a 5-bedroom single-family home. The proposed bedroom is in the attached garage would increase the total bedroom count to 6. The property is a certified rental home that recently, I just read that. The proposed bedroom in the attached garage would increase the total bedroom count to 6. The existing garage is located 5 feet to the side lot line and 4 feet 9 inches to the rear lot line. The R4C zoning district requires a minimum 30-foot rear yard setback. If you turn your attention to your monitors, you'll see the zoning map and the highlighted subject property in yellow at the center of your screen. The next slide shows the aerial photo surrounding properties and existing conditions. And the next slide shows the zoomed-in aerial photo of the subject property. The next slide is the survey that was submitted by the applicant with the application, and this is the attached garage on this side of the property, and where it says it's 4 feet 9 inches to the rear lot line. The next slide is a site plan that was submitted with the application. And the next slide shows a first floor plan, and you see the attached garage at the top of the screen, and then the proposed conversion on the interior to a bedroom. And it's got an access out the back on this side to the rear, and then into the home right here. The next slide shows the elevation, the north elevation of the front, and you see the attached garage to the left, on the left-hand side. The next slide is the east side elevation, looking directly at the house and the side elevation of the garage. These are the photos that I took on my inspection at the house. You see the garage on the left-hand side right here, cinder block style garage. This is the driveway looking directly at the garage. Another aspect of the existing garage in its current condition. This is the back of the garage and the relationship to the rear lot line, approximately to the fence, which is the distance of just under 5 feet. This is looking directly at the abutting property, the garage, and how its relationship to the abutting property. Looking down the side lot line out towards Greenwood, and the garage to the left and the adjacent property to the right. And this is one of the floor plans that was submitted of the existing basement and its permit application, which was building permit 22-3828. I just bring this to your attention. The plans call for a 6-bedroom house, but when this permit was submitted, the permit shows a 5-bedroom, as I'm showing my cursor, in the basement, and then you have a rec room with a closet and egress window and a study room to the other side of it with an egress window. Just going to present the facts. It appears that they're going to go for a 6-bedroom house, which they're allowed to have 6 occupants in an R4C, and they're calling for 6 bedrooms, but along with a rec room and a study room. That is the end of my presentation, and I will take any questions that you may have.
Thank you, John. Any questions? All right, if the petitioner's here, please come forward, state your name for the record. You'll have 5 minutes.
Good evening. My name is David Lewis. I am the architect for the project. I think John covered all the details pretty well. Basically, there's a unused attached garage to this house, and the homeowner is interested in converting it into a bedroom. There's basically no changes to the outside of the house other than the existing garage door will become a regular wall with windows in it. The garage, as you can see on the site plan, the garage is within the rear yard, so that is why we are required to seek permission to alter non-conforming structure. This is a very dense, student-populated neighborhood, and as I said, the garage is being unused currently, and the owner is interested in having it used so we can house more people in Ann Arbor. I don't know if Mustafa, you have anything to add? I'm available for any questions if anyone has any questions.
Great, thank you. Dave?
So we have a letter here from somebody that basically says, "Hi, I'm a student at the U of M, spent a lot of time looking for a place to rent. When going to view the house at 926 Greenwood, they presented the house as a 7-bedroom after their renovations, but when it came to signing anything, they only wanted 5 signatures. Asking more about this, they said that we would have to remove 2 beds if anyone were to come by, and this threw up a bunch of red flags, saying that they couldn't call the rec room in the basement and the study on the first floor as bedrooms, but still marketing the rooms to us as if they were bedrooms." Now, I know this kind of thing goes on in the rental market, and generally when I hear about it, it really upsets me because it's totally dodging all of our ordinances and requirements for the marketing of rental housing. And it's my concern, reading this letter, is those rooms are still there. Now, if we turn this into a bedroom, does that mean that the landlord's going to try to rent it to 8 people? Using these other rooms? I'm not asking that as a question to you. I'm just proposing this, but that's what I think when I see this come before us.
Right.
So I'm just putting that out there, and I'll discuss it further when we come to discussion.
Okay. Yeah, as far as I know, the landlord, and he can speak for himself, but as far as I understand, it's going to be renting for 6 people.
Any other questions for the petitioner?
Mustafa Ali. I've been in the renting business for the past 20 years. I am in love with real estate and housing. I was doing the renting business back home before I migrated to this country. I worked really hard for myself and for the students of the University of Michigan. It's unfortunate some students get mad, and they are younger and they get emotional and they try to do some damage. We would not do such a thing, and I don't think this is something that we would do. So we we know how to enforce the zoning. We make it very clear on the contract. It's for this number of people according to the city zoning. And we do inspections, regular inspections on the property, just in case there is any violation. And Mr. Barrett probably knows I have very clean record with the city. I've been dealing with the city for the past 20 years. At least I know the older people, you know. There's a lot of people, new people coming up. But like, look at my record with the city, and I never had a problem with the city. So that's how I present it. So.
Thank you. Any questions?
How many properties do you own?
27.
And do you have a manager or management company?
I have help, you know, people help me out.
But you're the primary manager and you're
I am the
responsible.
primary,
So
yes.
when I see a letter like this about presenting it as a 7-bedroom, are you saying that this
I'm not
person
aware.
is-
I'm not aware of this student. It could be someone else showed it to him. I'm not really sure, but we would not do such.
When did you acquire this property?
Recently, I think November 22.
Okay, so this is a new.
Correct.
You're a new owner.
It will be higher standard property, granite countertops, stainless steel appliances. It will be above average student rental, so.
Okay. You acquired this in November. Have you presented it to tenants, potential future tenants since you acquired it? Or has anybody in your employment done that?
I mean, usually the way we do it, we advertise it and we show it to students. You know, they can come and look at it. I did not show it myself.
Okay.
But others probably, you know, I have helpers who can show it, you know.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? All right, if there's anyone from the public who wishes to speak on this petition, I don't see anyone here, but if there's anyone accessing the meeting remotely, please press *9 to raise your hand or use the raise hand function.
There don't appear to be any callers at this time.
Thank you, Courtney. I believe Dave noted the one correspondence that we received on this petition. So with that, the public hearing is closed and we're in discussion. Dharma.
I just have a question if considering this kind of concern is relevant to this decision. I don't know if staff could advise or others that have been on this board longer.
I'll go. So I don't think that it should really be a factor in our decision. It's upsetting to me because this email was not in relation to a notice that was sent out. A student took it upon themselves separately from all of this to send it in. And so it's hard to get a student to do anything. And so the fact that they sent it in is pretty concerning. And I hope you take their concerns seriously, and I hope the city does too. I don't think that it is, at least I don't think that it is appropriate for us to use this vote as a way to punish someone for this email. I think there are better, more appropriate avenues for the city to take. I don't feel great about it, but I will not be voting. Just the two considerations, and I think they're met. And I just don't want to use it as a vehicle, an inappropriate vehicle to, you know, take out some, however I feel about it. So I'll be voting to support it. Do you want to go?
No, you can go. You had your hand up first.
Dave.
1, 2.
I think it is appropriate to consider this. The slim standards that we have to evaluate alterations we can approve it if upon a finding that it complies as nearly as practicable with the requirements of this chapter, which it does, and that it will not have a detrimental effect on neighboring property. I would argue that anybody operating a business like this and trying to go around our housing requirements to add extra bedrooms, in quotation marks, to get more residents in to make more money is a detrimental effect on neighboring property and neighboring beyond this immediate neighborhood, but throughout the community. And he's already got, this structure already has 2 rooms that are trying to masquerade as a rec room and a study. And now we're considering adding another room that we'll say is a bedroom. You know, I'm just going to vote against it. And I think it's a legitimate consideration because it's without a question that this, doing business like this has a detrimental effect on neighboring property.
Todd?
Well, I'm going to disagree with Dave, and I always gulp a little when I do this because Dave always thinks through his things carefully and is very conscientious. Putting on my lawyer hat, the letter is hearsay, the writer of the letter is not here, but I do agree with Chris's comment that it's completely irrelevant to what we have to consider, that these non-conforming uses are pretty easy. That said, I have been a little unhappy with the way the landlords in town, from my reading of various things that are going on in the city, Michigan Daily, MLive, et cetera, while the landlords as a group had sought to game the efforts by the city to push back on making people who have just arrived in Ann Arbor months ahead sign a requirement for the next year. I think landlords doing this in this town, it's a little, frankly, in my opinion, sleazy to make somebody who's been in town for a couple of months to decide where they're going to live a year from when they show up in Ann Arbor. I think that's just a hard business approach. And they've managed to get around it. And I don't know what the current status of that ordinance is, but it has a bad odor, in my opinion. That said, people renting beyond the amount of occupants that are proper in the home to maximize their revenue, I'm sure goes on in this city, but it's not the job of the zoning board to ferret that out. One could argue that this letter puts the city on notice that the people who do property inspections should bird dog this property, or maybe more of Mr. Ali's property. But again, this is hearsay, and I think even doing that on the basis of a letter when the person doesn't even have the guts to show up and say that he wrote the letter is quite askance. I think it would be improper for us to consider this. I think I can't even take an opinion about Mr. Ali. We simply have somebody that's unhappy. I have no evidence at all that we should look askance at Mr. Ali, what he's doing. This is going to be a very easy yes for me. And for the rest of this smoke, if there's any fire in it, there are other avenues in the city to deal with it. It's not for us to do this. It would be completely inappropriate for us to in any way consider this letter.
So as city staff, it's my responsibility to supply this board with all the information that I have available to me. And so I feel that I would be derelict in my duties if I didn't give you the current situation of the property. And when I reviewed the plans, when I'm reviewing these building permits, I look at this and I see bedroom 5, and then I see 2 other rooms that appear to be bedrooms. And then a week later, I get an alteration to a nonconforming structure with another bedroom in a garage. So I'm not speaking on behalf of this property or against it. Either way, I'm just giving you all the information that I have available at my fingertips to supply to you. And this email is something that's foilable, and it came to my office, it came to my desk, and as I was preparing this application, I felt that it was my responsibility to supply it with you, and the fact that I review these plans. And if someone puts 20 bedrooms on a plan and they can only have 6 occupants, I put that on every one of the notes on the permits. I say maximum occupancy is 6. I still have to prove the plan, even if they have 20 bedrooms, because we can enforce what we can enforce. But that's the reasoning for why I supplied this board with all the information that I had available to me. I feel like I would have been withholding something if I didn't supply you with that information tonight.
John, I totally agree with you. You're always very thorough, and I think you were right to present the letter. I'm just disappointed the person didn't show up, but even then,
Well, I don't
it's
think
nothing-
they didn't know that this hearing was taking place
Got it, got it.
about this,
Yeah.
because they aren't adjacent, they aren't probably within, 300 feet.
Yeah.
So they were never notified. I never contacted them and told them to come to this meeting.
Right,
I just, when this came to my email box, which is something that's foilable, I felt it my duty to supply this with this application.
I agree. You're always very thorough. You've always answered my even obscure, difficult questions. So nothing against you. It wasn't intended that way at all. I'm just saying that if a landlord is gaming the number of occupants to pump up revenue, there are different people in this city to whack a landlord and deal with that.
We have a rental
And you
housing
could argue this
department.
puts the city on notice that they ought to check this out. And maybe it might be more than a pattern of one, but I have no opinion one way or the other. I'm just saying that for what we decide today,
Yep.
it should not be relevant. But I'm
me,
glad
it's-
you brought that.
For me, it's relevant.
Understood.
Dharma.
I'm sorry, I feel like I'm intuiting that maybe you're telling me that there are red flags raised by the plans themselves.
I will be 100% honest with you, like I always have been. When it was a cause of concern. That's all I'm saying. It was a concern. I reviewed the plans and I just saw what I saw. And then a week later, I get this in my email box. So that's where I'm at. And like I said, I'm not supporting this project and I'm not denying this project. I'm just supplying you with all the information I have that I have available for you to make a decision. And what's the word I'm looking for? The best possible intellectual decision you can make with all the facts that you have at your disposal.
Any further discussion? We ready for a motion? Does anybody beside Dave want to
I'll
make a
fill
motion?
my role.
Perfect. Chris has got it.
Are you on? No, that's right.
The Zoning Board of Appeals hereby grants relief from Section 5.32.2, alteration to a nonconforming structure to allow the conversion of an existing nonconforming attached garage to be converted to new habitable space. The new space will accommodate an approximate 157 square foot bedroom. The interior alteration is to be constructed per the submitted plans.
We have a motion. Do we have support?
Support.
Thank you, Christina. Chris?
Yes.
Todd?
Yes.
Christina?
Yes.
I also vote yes. Dave?
DeVarty, no.
Dharma?
Yes.
The request is granted. Moving on to unfinished business. I don't believe we have any new business we have addressed. Communications, I believe we addressed all communications. I see you, Todd. One second. Communications, I believe we addressed with each petition. Public comment, since there is no one else here, is there anyone accessing the meeting remotely who wishes to address the Zoning Board of Appeals regarding anything?
There don't appear to be any callers at this time.
Thank you, Courtney. Todd?
Yes, I mentioned this to you before the meeting started, Candace. Matt or Brett, I think in November, the December meeting, mentioned that the city wanted to do another training session.
Yes.
And I would point out that with the exception of Candace, Dave, and I think myself, all the members of the zoning board have arrived since the last training session, and I think one would be in order.
I'm going to send out a survey poll this week, or probably this week or next week, and give several dates, and you guys can all respond to the dates and see if I can work out something that best fits everyone's calendar. Since everyone's got so many different dates, I'll put probably 3 out. I think I did that the last time too. It's called Survey Monkey. So if you see a Survey Monkey, I think it's called, in your email box, it's not spam. It's coming from me, and I'm trying to just get a firm date where we can have a retreat. And it'll be myself and Brett Leonard, the planning manager, and hopefully someone from the city attorney's office as well. Just kind of the same thing, and we'll probably have some snacks or food, and we will, and I'll also request that, you supply me with some questions that you may have so that we can respond to them before we go. So, and we're not scrambling for answers, we'll know that the answers to your questions. It'll be hopefully a good training session, since we do have so many new members as well. Does that answer your question? Or supplement
Yes,
your
sir.
statement?
That's great.
Yes.
Can I
Yes,
do one
Dave,
thing?
please.
I'd like to make an announcement that the 61st Annual Ann Arbor Film Festival, an internationally renowned experimental film festival, is launched last night and runs through Sunday. The winners are going to be showing on Sunday. I'd like to invite all of my colleagues to go to a show. I have some programs here which I'll offer to you, and tickets. So I could give 2 tickets to each of you or any of you as you'd like, and be able to take in this internationally renowned film festival, or at least one program for it.
Thank you, Dave. Any other comments? Do I have a motion to adjourn? Thank you, Chris. Support?
Yes.
Thank you, Todd. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thanks, everybody.